Welcome to the Maine Outdoor Enthusiast podcast. I'm Paul.
And I'm Mark.
This is episode number 6.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, we're cranking them out. we skipped last week.
Yeah.
It was Memorial Day
Sometimes
weekend.
life gets busy.
Yeah, I was feeling a little under the weather.
Yeah.
Probably can
And
still,
your entire family was, so.
yeah, probably can still kind of hear that.
Yeah.
So if I sound funny, sorry. I probably sound funny all the time anyway. So
No.
doesn't really matter.
No.
So we're going to talk about today what makes great deer hunters great.
Yep.
And there's a lot of great deer hunters that we've all heard about.
And there's a lot of great deer hunters we've never heard about.
There's a lot, and we kind of did an episode on that. There's
we've
a lot of
mentioned
good,
that in other podcasts.
a lot of great deer hunters that we've never heard of.
Yeah.
But myself growing up, the great deer hunters that obviously the Benoits.
Yeah. First and foremost, you would think of.
And I got a quick story about the Benoits. They were kind of the first deer tracking, or I should back this up, the great deer trackers. So what makes a great
Deer tracker.
What makes a great deer, not just a deer hunter, but what makes
Right.
a great deer tracker great? And deer tracking's kind of become a thing.
There's a lot of and there's been a lot of podcasts.
It's becoming
deer
and that's what our group kind of grew up not solely doing.
Well, you couldn't solely do it because if you didn't have the snow, we
were opportunists.
Yeah.
So depending on what the weather was,
conditions,
what was going on.
Yeah.
Some guys in our group more than others track deer. Even the guys that sat, snow was still a
big thing. Oh,
it really mentally it got you in the mood.
Yeah, it got you excited
for the next
snow
day.
Came, for sure.
But the Benoits, so growing up, loved to read books on hunting and loved watching hunting videos. But there was nothing that was relatable, right? We'd watch Real Tree Outdoor videos, nonstop, and it's great. But it's like I don't hunt that way,
right?
And I can remember I was like 11 or 12. You got me a book for Christmas, and again I'd read hunting books like crazy. And I think was it Greg Miller? Was that his name? He wrote for, I don't know if it was Deer and Deer Hunting or.
Yeah.
He was like one of the hunting experts.
Yeah.
And I'll have to look it up. I'm pretty sure his name is Greg Miller. And I can remember reading the book, and it basically had chapters broken down into, there was bedding areas, feeding areas, and like patterning deer.
Yeah.
And even at 12 years old, or whatever, I was young. I can remember thinking, I don't see how this would work where we hunt. I don't really.
Well, it wouldn't.
It wouldn't. And of course, he's the expert.
No, right.
I'm not. I'm reading his book.
We hunted big woods, which was a total different. They laid down wherever they wanted to lay down.
They ate wherever they.
Could be miles away from where they slept the night before or the day before or whatever. They travel different places at different times, and it was.
So it was the Benoits really that first video was on VHS.
Yeah.
I can remember coming home from school and the first time seeing it going, holy smokes, this is just like deer camp. They were
and they did. They hunted Maine, the big woods of Maine.
Yeah.
So
those great deer trackers, those were the first, ones that I was introduced to.
Yeah.
Who else we got? There's I can remember Jim Massett.
Yeah, he was the Adirondack.
There's another one from the Adirondacks.
Yeah.
So we had the Benoits, Jim Massett. Then along came Hal Blood.
Yeah.
And you had the Berniers, R.G. Bernier.
Right. We've got a few of their books. And
don't really hear much about them. I enjoyed their books, whether they were
legit
or not. I like a good deer story, whether it's true or not.
And they shot deer. So, I mean, they had the results to show for their efforts.
They did.
So
so those are some great deer trackers, and they all kind of had characteristics in common that really made them good at tracking deer. Any idea Any guesses? We were talking last night as we were building the canoe.
The first thing that you have to have, when we talk about any deer tracking or anything that you're going to be really good at, you have to have a passion for it.
You're right.
Number one, you got to have a passion.
Yeah. So
you got to really want to do it. You have to love what you and those guys all love what they did. They had a passion.
All the great deer trackers, and I got to remember to say trackers because we're specifically going to talk about tracking gear. They just love to do it.
It goes with anything, Paul. Any sport that you play or whatever, you know, if you're going to be good at it, you have to have the passion for it. You got to want to do it and devote the time and effort into it. You got to have a passion for it.
And you see those, you know, a lot of guys. I mean, they go for the entire month.
Yeah,
and they are dedicated, especially if it's a good conditions.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Sick.
Yeah.
They go no matter what.
Yeah.
There's a real passion driving those guys to just go out every day, all day.
Yeah.
And not give up.
Day after day.
One big thing that I find that's common with all really good deer trackers, you know, that I've read about over the years, not so much being physically fit, which is important. You got to be able to walk,
right,
and go all day.
Because it's going to get hard.
It's going to get hard.
It's going to get physically hard. It's going to get difficult.
I'm big on. I think physical fitness is important, but if anyone's if anyone's living proof of not having to be in superb fitness, it would be the Benoits. Those guys, man,
they didn't look the part of a marathon runner or anything that.
And they went hard. And I remember there's one video where Lanny, he's all sweated up.
Yeah.
And he says he's taking his hat, he's soaking wet. And he's like, this deer's just roaming. He's like, he hasn't done anything for 11 months and neither have I.
Yeah.
Or something to that extent.
Yeah.
That's why I'm all sweated up.
Yeah.
So I think those guys mentally, they were just strong-willed.
Yeah.
So regardless of how much pain and discomfort they're in,
they keep going.
They are mentally fit.
Yeah, I've run into that mental part. I think everybody does, you know, when you got things going through your head and, you know.
Yeah, you have good days and bad days.
Yeah, you know, I'll probably, you know, maybe conditions aren't good and you know, the chances of me getting the deer are slim and you might talk yourself into heading back. You know, it's getting late in the afternoon. I've been 5 hours.
You can be your own worst enemy.
Yeah.
You can talk yourself out of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I've done it. I've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't consider myself one of the great deer trackers. I like doing it. But,
no. And that's wwhy we're talking about other legendary deer trackers.
I'm just a guy that's done it a few times. And
just show up, have fun. But yeah, I think, mental and emotional fitness supersedes physical fitness any day of the week. Although physical fitness helps. Another big component that you'll see as far as the mental aspect is the ability of these guys to critically think. Yeah. You got to make a lot of decisions throughout the day.
Yeah, on a lot of different
different
input.
And I think what a lot of people look for is a recipe for everything nowadays. Is they want this plus this plus this is going to give me this.
Yeah.
And it really, there's so many, it's multifaceted. There's so many things playing.
Yeah.
Obviously, you get a living animal that's making decisions in front of you.
Yeah.
They all have different personalities. You know, what one deer will do. There are fundamentals that you follow.
There's trends. And
they're the basic fundamentals, which I think all those guys like Hal Blood and the Benoits, all their what are they called? Their clinics they put on.
Right.
I think what they're focusing on are those fundamentals.
Right.
That you can basically, this is almost guaranteed what will happen. But then there's so many nuances in amongst that. So being able to, take in all that information and then assimilate it,
making a good
making a good
guess as to what might happen, or
and then following through with that decision and not second guessing yourself.
Right.
Because I am guilty. I can get too cerebral about something and really start thinking about it.
Overthink it.
And then you continue on the track or whatever, and then you're going, oh, did I make the right decision? Maybe I should have.
Right.
And I've gone back before, and then you start second guessing yourself. It's just a bad way to go. And I always think of Lanny Benoit when I watch those videos, which we've watched those videos probably thousands of times.
We've seen those videos.
I mean, we kind of have an ongoing joke when we're out deer hunting. We basically have Benoit quotes the whole time we're deer hunting.
Yeah.
And the Benoits are basically run on loop in camp, with some of Hal Blood's videos too. But the thing about Lanny Benoit is, and he's mentioned this before, you got to be laid back.
Yeah.
Just kind of chill about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And he seems like he has that personality that he's just like, whatever.
Yeah.
This is what I'm gonna do. And I've found that the days that I've been most successful were the days that
you didn't push it. I mean,
I went out with no.
Right.
I don't want to say no game plan, but I was like, this is where I'm going to go hunt.
Yeah.
Try to find a deer track, and then whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
And sometimes those are the days that everything just kind of comes to fruition.
Yeah.
And it's the days that I have like this big game plan.
Yeah.
That it doesn't.
Yeah.
And you kind of force the issue.
Yeah. Well, I think that comes under patience. You have to be a patient person, and let things unfold, and
as they may.
Yeah, exactly, and not push certain situations or whatever, and have the mindset. Well, it's the last day. I got to go hard and make it happen, and you got to let it happen. And
we've shot a lot of deer in the last day.
We have,
where it's like. Well, there's probably
a lot of those days we didn't have high expectations, though. It was the last day, and we may have hunted hard the entire season, and things just worked out.
It was. There's a couple times where we did an about face.
Yeah,
just
went to an area we'd never been before, and it worked out in a couple hours.
Yeah, shot a nice
It was amazing that. So
you never know.
You never know
what's going to transpire. So you talk about patience, which is another weakness of mine.
Yeah, I've gotten better at it, but I'm not a real patient person and stuff. And
as far as, and that comes, being laid back. There's days that I'm better at it than others. But also patience. I tend to go fast.
Yeah.
And hard.
Yeah.
Probably because one, I can, and not really get tired.
Right.
And if things aren't going my way, if things aren't going the way I think they should be, I tend to go harder and harder, like I'm going to outwork a deer.
And that serves you well in certain situations, but not in
no, because there's a lot of things there's a lot of things in life where, whether it's work, school, whatever, if you're struggling with something and you just put your nose to the grind and work harder,
right,
it can get you through to the other side. Yeah.
Thinking we can, the harder we work, the more successful you're going to be, you're going to, and that certainly doesn't play out in deer hunting, that,
no, and
tracking a deer.
And I will say, and again, I don't know personally, but just from watching videos of the Benoits over and over and over, Lanny Benoit seems to be one that probably he could get away with that.
Yeah.
Because he seems to be a heck of a shot.
Yeah.
And so he could go hard.
Yeah.
And basically, if he's got any shot at all, he's probably going to make it. Yeah, wasn't he a championship?
I've seen a number of different shows and stuff that he's been on, or people talking about him. He was a really good skeet shooter.
Yeah. So he may be probably, would be one that could get away with just walk up and shoot him.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get away with that.
No,
At least not consistently.
no.
So I guess another common characteristic you see of a lot of these great deer trackers is their ability to adapt to situations.
Yeah, you have to, you were talking about that a little while ago and all the different situations you're faced and stuff, and you have to adapt to things that change all the time while you're tracking. You know, that when you're coming to a deer, when you've tracked a deer for 2 or 3 hours and all of a sudden it comes into other deer and you switch gears, you know that it may be right there. All of a sudden it was straight lining for 2 or 3 hours, and now it's with other deer, and you know the does don't go far. Nope. They're not straight lining anywhere. So
nope.
And I've run into that many times. Then you know that the deer is probably pretty close. Not always. He may check him and pass through and go on, but oftentimes he's not far.
Even in Maine anyway, the seasonality of it, or I should say the way the season transitions, deer behavior is so different.
Oh yeah,
the
from
beginning of November
the first to the
end of November. And you'll hear guys like Hal Blood and a lot of these good deer trackers talk about they prefer to track earlier in the year. They can get snow early in the year. And the reason behind it is those bucks aren't traveling.
They're not traveling. They're eating, and they're not going.
They're far. A lot easier to catch. Our favorite week to go is Thanksgiving week.
Yeah,
and that can be
frustrating.
Can be a frustrating week.
I'll tell a story, and more so you. But we were hunting a ridge up by camp, and Thanksgiving week, and we had a buck in there, and a pretty good buck, and his tracks were everywhere. His tracks.
They were never walking.
That thing fast walked or trotted everywhere he went, up and down the ridge, checking does. And I just don't think, and I don't know if you ever come up to a bed of his, did you, Paul?
I tracked him several times.
A number of days.
I almost caught him once. He'd get into a little pocket of does, and that was my saving grace.
And he didn't stay with them.
God, all I had to have done was he went into a pocket of fir trees, and it was smoking fresh. And of course, I decided to go right in.
Yeah.
Because I'd tracked this buck before. It's like he was frantic. He just
he
big
pretty much ran
everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I went in, and there was like 6 beds. And he went in and did a loop, comes out in my boot tracks.
Yeah.
And I can remember looking down at my boot tracks going, if I just would have stood right here for, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, he would have come right back around.
Yeah.
But
that buck was so tough. He was frustrating.
When he left them, it was off to the races.
Beeline, yeah.
We were gone.
He was a tough buck. And that all had to do with him just looking for does to breed.
God,
the time of year.
He was nuts.
And
I think back, too, of another time. We were headed into a spot to hunt. I was young. I don't think I could hunt alone yet. I was under 16. And there was a nice 8-pointer that stepped out in front of us. We were headed towards Churchill Dam.
Oh, yeah.
It was before legal time.
Yeah.
And I think it was like, 10 or 15 minutes before legal time?
Yeah.
So buck crosses the road. We sit in the truck till legal time, jump out, load our guns, tracked him all day long.
Yeah.
Never.
We jumped him out of the bed. We came to his bed.
Did we?
Yeah.
Was that the end of the day, though?
Yeah. I don't know how long we tracked him, but we did jump him up. We never saw him. He ran out of his bed. I remember that. And
you had a bad knee, too. You were dragging one leg.
Yeah. Probably pushing it too hard that week and stuff, and getting tendonitis. And,
the back of your knee had blown up.
Yeah. I had that knee drained 2 or 3 times. So.
But yeah, so that was go all day, and you're right behind the deer. And,
if he doesn't do something, if he doesn't stop or bed down or come into some does, you'll never catch him. You'll never catch up to him.
So that brings us to another characteristic that you see pretty common amongst these guys is perseverance.
Yeah, that's right up there.
They don't give up.
Yeah.
And they keep going. That's where I was joking about being an eternal optimist versus a pessimist.
Yeah.
If you think it's going to happen, and that's always in your head, like that's just a matter,
They believe it's going to
matter of
happen.
time.
They believe that
And,
it's going to happen. That that they're going to get that deer when they step on the track.
I hear the same thing at other guys' deer camps. When I talk to some other guys that they have their own deer camps and whatnot, and there's, I think, Scott. All the other guys joke about him, saying he's always optimistic. He's so optimistic, and he's successful.
Yeah,
he shoots some nice deer.
Yeah,
and with those, it's always going to be good. It's always.
I think the being an optimist helps you with the perseverance, because if you're not an optimist, you can talk yourself out of continuing.
Yeah, go back to the truck for lunch.
Go back to the truck for lunch, or the odds of me getting them aren't good. I'll break off now. I got a long walk to the truck, and and to stay focused. If you're optimistic and you stay focused, and I've let my guard down and started.
It's always when you
started pushing through when I was tired, and you're not looking and you're not listening and you're not paying attention to what you should be. And then you jump them up, and all you see is running tracks out of a bed. And, it's easy to stay focused for the first few hours. It's hard to maintain that through the day.
So mental stamina
to stay and to stay focused and right until the end. And
your Achilles heel is you start frigging around with too much stuff.
Yeah.
Look, there's a moose. Let's call that in.
Yeah, I'm curious. If I see stuff going on, I want to know. Maybe a fisher or whatever.
Yeah.
Other tracks of other animals. Want to look and see what they're doing, and I get a curious nature that.
And I mean, that's, I guess, to each their own. You're out there to have a good time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who's to say?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've always said over and over, for me, it's more about the process rather than.
Yeah.
Actually, while I love shooting deer, there's not much of a greater feeling in life when you're successful, especially after working hard.
Right.
But it's still that whole process that's very important. I think it's overlooked. Everyone wants to tell you how to catch more fish or how to shoot more deer. There is, at least for me, there's more efficient ways of doing a lot of things. It's just not for me.
Right.
Even if it may catch more fish or shoot more deer, I just don't want to.
Right.
It doesn't really light my fire.
Listen, if we wanted to shoot deer, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing, hunting here in northern Maine.
Not in Maine,
where we hunt, the deer population is 1 to 2 per square mile. So, I mean, there's a lot of places you can go and guarantee yourself a lot better success than northern Maine. We do not have many deer up here, that is for sure. Some of the other things too, Paul, that are important, and not everybody can do that. And if you're going to be a good deer tracker, you got to be able to spot and hear, and you got to be able to use your senses, because your opportunities are going to be very few. You're going to have if you're a good deer tracker, you're looking for one opportunity in a season.
And it's hard to explain, and that, at least the eyesight part, is really a learned characteristic. Having good visual acuity is important.
Yeah.
Being able to see really well. But then there's a skill that's learned as far as
to be able to pick out what
doesn't look right.
What doesn't, and the good, and
I do it all the time now when I drive.
I do it.
I mean, I'll be like,
I look for deer.
That's a moose.
When I pull out of here and go to the lake, I'll be looking for deer. Or moose or turkeys or whatever.
Yeah. And as far as medically concerned, I've got terrible eyesight.
Yeah.
I have to wear corrective lenses. You've got exceptional eyesight.
I used to have really good eyesight.
You still do.
Yeah.
But as far as being able to pick something out, I can remember I don't know how many times I've been with you over the years. And like, remember that 215 pounder I shot in 2009? That he was with a buck and a doe. You'd spotted the doe. God, it was like 150 yards or so down through the woods. She was standing in some raspberry bushes. And all that stuck out was the white patch of her throat.
Yeah.
The rest of her blended in. And you were like, there's a deer staring at me down there. And what had happened was that buck had broken off before we saw him.
Yeah.
To the left. And she just stayed there looking at us.
Yeah.
And we didn't get an opportunity at that point.
I did see him. He came back.
He crossed
when
the back.
The doe wandered off, he walked right. I could see him walking down through the raspberries down there.
We saw his tines.
Like his head was, he walked, but it was such a quick, he just went right through.
It was a long ways away.
It was a long way away. And he walked right through the opening really quick and from my left to right.
Yep.
And But you can't waste opportunities and stuff.
No.
You are really going to frustrate yourself if you give up an opportunity. And those guys too, when they're presented an opportunity, most of the time it's not going to be a standing deer, broadside, full view. It's going to be a piece of a deer, maybe running, And the really good ones, like you were saying, Lanny, a good shot. They're going to get a shot into them, and then with snow, it's pretty much over.
Hal Blood alludes to that too, because I think even this past year he was talking about a deer, a big buck, that he missed an opportunity on. He slept or whatever.
I heard that.
He was kicking himself in the rear because he said he's like,
it was a straightaway shot going.
That was my chance.
Yeah,
that was it. And that's usually what it boils down to. Is you end up in Maine anyway, one opportunity, and it may not be a very good opportunity as far as others are concerned.
No.
But yeah, and even this year I missed a buck at point blank range.
Yeah.
I didn't have much to shoot at, but it's like the minute I realized I didn't hit the deer, I'm like, that was may have been your. That was it,
and it was your only opportunity.
Yeah, I could have shot a spike horn later that day, but that was, you kind of know, like, crap, I let that one.
Yeah.
Let that one go. Having good senses, good hearing, which your hearings.
Yeah, my hearing's going for
now.
sure. Yeah. That's an Achilles heel of mine also.
You make up for it in other areas.
Yeah.
Persistence. Yeah. Maybe you just need more opportunities.
Yeah. Another thing, and I don't know, we really didn't talk about it, is probably one of the most important things is time. And you had mentioned the guys that go for a month. If you don't have the flexibility of time to not only go often, a lot, but to go when the opportunity, I mean, you're only going to have a few days if you're lucky where you have tracking conditions. You got to be able to get out of work, get away from the family, and whatever else that you have, you've got to be able to get away and go.
And there's always that day when it seems like everyone's shooting deer.
Yeah.
And I think back, there was a time, it was, I don't know, 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
It was Veterans Day, and I was at work, and we got snow that morning. It was like a sticky snow. It was right around, I don't know, just above freezing that day.
Yeah.
And you tracked a buck and shot it.
Yeah.
So I got a phone call. Shot a deer this morning. You're telling me the story. Pretty soon the phone's ringing again. Another guy we know shot a huge 250-something pound buck. I think that was like top 10 in the state that year.
Yeah.
And then just numerous people coming in that had shot deer. And that was just, you get days where it's like everybody is successful.
Yeah, and Veterans Day, that's the 11th of November. That's early in the season for snow. You don't often have snow that early in the season.
That was a long day at work.
Yeah.
That was a long day at work.
Yeah.
But having time to be able to go and and the guys that are, all the guys that are great deer trackers, basically dedicate, well, more than the month, because they'll do a lot in early October.
Yeah.
Through October, November, and muzzle load.
Right. That's hard for most people like yourself, Paul. You got a young family. You got 3 kids.
Yeah, I get a week.
You got a career, and you've got a few days. And if you don't get snow those few days, well, you're not going to track a deer that year.
No, it's...
So, I mean, it's hard. And a lot of people are in the same boat as you are. And
well, worse off. You figure if someone who hunts in Maine, who has no vacation time, say they work a 9-to-5 job, Monday through Friday, they basically get, 4 days a year to hunt. They get
4 days.
Saturdays.
Yeah.
And then their season.
Maybe a Veterans Day if they get that off.
Yep.
I know where I worked, we didn't get Veterans Day off. So
no, I don't get Veterans Day off.
So it doesn't always pan. And Thanksgiving and maybe the day after Thanksgiving is a holiday for some people, and they get those days. But yeah, time is having the flexibility of time is an important thing to have if you're going to be a good deer tracker.
Yeah. I mean, the same applies to fishing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right? Because there's days that I can't go fishing, and you'll be pretty consistent about it.
Yeah.
Going.
And you're going to hit it eventually.
And then you get a day where it's like, wow.
Yeah, you're going to hit it eventually. If you keep going enough, you'll get the right conditions, and you'll have a couple days that are really good. So
I guess to summarize, so what we've observed that these great deer trackers that everyone reads about, the characteristics that make them good at and successful at deer tracking. So there's mental, physical fitness, emotional fitness, perseverance. Yeah, they've got plenty of time to do it.
Skill, shooting skills.
Well, that's something we'll touch on here in a minute. I mean, they're adaptable. Their ability to critically think is good, and to make decisions on the fly and stick with them. They're patient. Yeah, and
persistent.
And they have a passion for it. Yeah. They do it day in and day out. So you had mentioned shooting, and there's some things I was thinking. So those are some characteristics that make a great deer tracker great. But there's some things that that aren't as important. And I think you need to be a good enough shot.
You have to be like being a skeet shooter. You have to have quick reflexes. We talked about an opportunity, and that deer bounding away comes through an opening, and you have got to, the guy that can get up on that opening really quick and instinctively shoot is going to be. It's not about sitting on a bench rest.
That guy probably can't go out and outshoot a lot of guys off a bench at 100 yards and be cutting, I don't know, quarter-inch groups or whatever. You don't need to. Yeah. The more important thing is, and I've said this over and over, is knowing your gun.
Yeah, being comfortable with it and stuff. Yeah.
Being an extension of your body, because you don't have to think about anything.
No.
Everything's going to be just boom, boom, boom. If you're going to think about where's my safety, running the action. Yeah. And so, for me, it's what gun someone uses has always been a non-issue. Yeah. It's whatever, because you see guys like Rodney Elmer and those guys, they use bolt action. Yeah. Pretty big. I think they use pretty big guns.
Yeah. 7mm he uses, I think.
7mm mag?
Yeah.
Is it?
I think he uses,
Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's 7mm mag. Then, common one's a pump. Yeah. Because they cycle fast. Yeah. Lots of shots. They're accurate. They like to, say they're more reliable. They don't jam, and I still see guys running pumps, jam them.
They can fail.
You can short cycle a pump.
I've seen them fail.
I've seen the pumps freeze. Yeah. I like my semi-automatic. That's my preference. That's what I've always used, and I'm really familiar with it. Right. And I'm comfortable with it. I don't have to think about a thing.
No. As far as pull the trigger, take the safety off, pull the trigger. They like the carbines too for that reason, because they're quick.
Yeah,
Carbines
I
are
will
frickin'.
say, so I've never really shot a pump until last year.
Yeah.
I was playing around with one that I bought. Boys, they are balanced nice.
Yeah.
They really, I can see
Yeah.
why those guys like
And
like the
and
pumps.
like I say, the shooting that I'm talking about, and I've heard some of the guides talk about this, and they've got a sport with them, and they've tracked a deer all day, and they jump the deer up, and they get it quick, and nothing happens, and the guy turns
where were
around
you?
to the sport and says, "Well, well, I didn't have a good shot." Well, that's about as good a shot as you're going to get. And,
I could have got 3
and
shots
did,
off at it.
yeah,
by the
and you
time.
did not shoot,
Yeah.
and that's the case. And I've taken some shots. And I've got quick reflexes, or I did anyway. And after the fact, and got the deer, and thought, man, he didn't give me much of an opportunity, but I made it work.
Yep.
I hit 2 different deer tracking while they were running in the neck, and they didn't go through a very big opening when I get on it quick, and you have to recognize that it's a buck in that small
Identify
opening,
it. Yep.
identify it, and then get a shot on it. And I don't think there's a lot of people that can do that.
No.
I don't think there's a lot of people that can do that. So if you can't do that, you're wasting your time to track a deer.
You're not going to get.
You're not going to get
very seldom a standing shot
with the entire deer showing.
No brush in between.
Yeah.
It's funny because of course, growing up doing this, you kind of think everyone thinks the same way.
Right.
And I can remember when I went to college, there was a guy from southern Maine, loved a deer hunt. And we actually both shot deer over 200 pounds that first year of college. He'd come back from, his family's never shot one. They shot a lot of deer.
Yeah.
They've never shot over 200. He'd come back to school and pictures and couldn't wait to tell me.
Yeah.
And I think I came home Veterans Day weekend.
Was that Joe?
That was Joe.
Yeah.
And I was like, look what I shot this weekend.
Yeah.
He's like, son of a gun. So his had a beautiful rack. But he was showing me pictures. And he said, I didn't know if I was going to get a shot off at it because I was waiting for it to get out from behind some brush.
Yeah.
So he's showing me where his stand was and where this brush pile was. I was like, man, you shoot right through that. There was all kinds of
holes in
to
that.
him.
Yeah. Yeah.
To him, that brush pile was. He's like, I was trying to wait for him to get up the other side of the brush pile. I was like, holy smokes, I would have cut the brush pile down by then.
Yeah. So, like I say, when I talk about a good shot, you got to have quick reflexes and be able to get on your target acquisition really quick.
Yeah.
Really quick. And like you say, you got to identify that animal before you pull that trigger, and then it's all a split second.
Yeah, that can be hard unless someone's done it. It's hard to explain to them exactly what.
Yeah.
So for me, when we go to the range shooting, if I can hit an 8-inch pie plate freehand at 100 yards, consistently, then I'm good to go. I don't need to be cutting bullet holes at 100 yards off a bench is impractical anyway.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
But so that was anything else?
Well, just natural skills, natural ability to, like I say, to spot and to see the deer before he sees you or before he takes off. That is always that happened to me last year when we started down the deer trail on the pile of deer tracks there, and I wasn't paying attention. We were only 100 yards from the track.
Yeah, you know.
And had my head down looking at tracks, and the deer standing up looking at me.
You think you're just leaving the truck.
I didn't expect
nothing's gonna happen. Yeah,
but I should have been looking down through the woods there. I'm sure I would have. I should have been able to see him before he took off. But I didn't. So when he took off, it was all over. And there again, how many opportunities like that are you going to have up here in a season? Not many.
Not many at all.
Not many at all.
You got to make them count.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are some of the characteristics that we've picked up on over time of what these great deer trackers that everyone reads about. Those are some of the characteristics and things that produce results for them.
Yeah.
So, anything else? One other thing that you don't need, that I think we get inundated with everything is gear. There's so much gear.
Yeah, no,
You've
gear
driven
has
down.
very little to, you know,
Do what works for you and stick with it. And
yeah, yeah,
I still wear the same wool that
yeah, you wore 20 years ago
20 years ago.
or longer. Yeah.
Gears, at least for me anyways.
There's
Such
some
a
days,
small-
Paul, we carry a fanny pack and put some stuff in it. You know, there's days that I don't even do that if I want to go really light and stuff.
Throw some stuff in your pockets.
Throw some stuff in my pocket. It is darn tough to get lost in Maine now.
There's so many logging roads.
There are so many roads.
Just
you
walk
do not
straight.
have to. As far as wandering in the woods for any distance without coming to a logging road, you just don't do it.
In fact, that's one of my pet peeves with tracking deer. I get nervous as heck because there's so many roads and people like to drive the roads.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah.
Oh God, we're coming up on a road.
The woods are so fragmented, that there's so many roads and so many blocks of woods that I just can't envision getting lost in northern Maine now. I just,
I'm sure someone could pull it off.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would be hard.
Yeah.
It'd be hard.
So.
Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Well, we're going to talk. You want to talk about some of the things that not to do, and I got one that.
Well, it was the shooting part was. What else you
got? Age.
Oh, age is a factor.
65 years old does not make a good deer tracker.
No, you're still doing it.
I'm still doing it, but boy, it's. I thought of a few years ago when we were, and you had a buddy with you, and we had all that snow early in the season and through the season, and it was you get in the twitch trails and it was up to your crotch.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't track in that.
He was in good shape.
Yeah, I couldn't track in that. You guys did.
Riley's in good shape.
I was waiting. Yeah, it was Riley. I was waiting in that stuff, and I could go a little while, but as far as going all day long, I could not do that.
Riley's a guy that you want around if you shoot a deer in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
he's a machine.
Yeah,
he likes the elk hunting and stuff out west where you get to pack that stuff out.
Yeah. So with 65. It not only the conditioning is going downhill, but the hearing is going downhill, the reflexes are going downhill, and the eyesight's going downhill, and even somewhat the passion and the persistence start to fade just a wee bit. I still enjoy it, but
you're still consistent about it, though.
Yeah, I would have a hard time keeping up with somebody 25 or 35. So
yeah, I guess you don't have to. You pick and choose your.
Yeah, you do.
You choose your battles.
And you do that. You
be a little more meticulous about what it is.
You recognize the ones.
You look at that deer track. He's like, yeah, that guy's not stopping at all today.
No, yeah, the age of it, how old it is, and where it's going, and you may say, I'll find another one that. Yeah, you may have a better opportunity at. So
you get more patient with age.
Yeah, that you do.
Yeah.
That you do. So
there's a reason why.
Yeah.
Reason behind it.
Yeah.
But anything else?
No, that would be it.
That's what wraps it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting stuff. I love reading about other deer hunters and I love the videos.
Yeah.
I still wish they made DVDs, to be honest with you, because they're nice to bring to camp. We don't have internet at camp.
I just listened to a podcast. They're going to have a box set of all the Benoit DVDs. They just put them out again.
Well, what about we've got all of those, but what about the first one?
The first one I've got on VHS.
But can you get that on DVD?
You can, as far as I know, this year.
That would be
But they're going to be at Huntstock. And there's a limited number, and they believe that they're going to be sold out at this Huntstock event.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
So they just, like I say, they're just putting them out right now, but they don't believe if they're not sold out at this Huntstock event, they're going to offer them to the public. But they believe they're going to be sold out at Huntstock. So
we have watched those.
Yeah.
Like I said,
they're fun to watch. I still watch them, and I still read the books and stuff. I go through it.
When I was a kid, I had a stack of books beside the bed.
Yeah.
In September, October.
Yeah.
It was like my seasonal reading, and it would be all Benoit books. and then burn your books.
Yeah.
Um,
See, that falls under the heading of passion.
oh,
You had a passion for it, and if you don't have that, well, you're wasting your time.
I can remember the first time I ever really read about the Benoits. It was, I think, 97 when I shot that big buck. So my first taste of success.
Yeah.
Extra time at camp. They were on the cover of Deer and Deer Hunting.
Yeah.
And I think it was a 97 edition. And they're sitting in front of the porch, all those big bucks.
Yes. Yeah.
And oh my word.
Yeah.
I just
down in Duxbury, Vermont, or wherever. Yeah.
And I mean, not to get off topic, but you think of what it would have been like to hunt back then, like the 60s, 50s.
Yeah.
They started coming up here in the 50s, was it?
I'm not sure when.
I forget.
When,
I'd have to double check. I know.
I think
Lanny
Larry
started coming up first.
I think Larry did, and then Lanny was soon, of course, when he got old enough, he was with Larry and stuff. But yeah, you're right, and I have a memory of that. Of course, I was a kid, so I wasn't a seasoned deer hunter, but I do have a good memory of what the woods were like and what the deer population was like in the 60s and stuff. And it would be great to go back, but we can't.
No, and that's why they stopped hunting here, because they really knew what the good days were like. Yeah, and it's hard to get. I guess as you get older too, it's hard to get motivated to go out when you knew what used to be
and what you're facing now,
and you're older. And it's harder because there's fewer deer, few and far between. Some places have no big bucks. No. And if you're just looking for a big buck.
Do you know, and in that too, Paul, deer behavior has changed in how you 100%, because now in northern Maine, deer yard in a very few yards and travel great distances to get to those yards, where back then there were yards everywhere, no coyotes, yards everywhere. So you hunted them, and now it's like a migration type of trail hunt.
If the snow is coming.
In Thanksgiving week, you're going to find deer along those migration trails, and what you're going to find is a lot of other hunters.
Yeah.
Because there's roads everywhere, and those trails just go across road after road after road. And deer hunting has changed completely in that regard. No roads back in the 60s, very, very few roads. Deer dispersed everywhere because they didn't really travel far to yards. There were yards around any lake or brook or river. There were deer yards that today do not hold any deer.
No.
And they travel great distances to get to the few yards they do yard in.
That, and I remember also you talking about, when you were younger, there was no coyotes, but there was hardly any. Yeah. The deer, when you track the deer, you get a lot of bucks that, they just want to put time and space between them and you. And you'd get a lot of deer just tracking them. They'd just jump off to the side and what's following me? What's coming behind me? Yeah. And years of being chased now by coyotes.
They have been chased a lot of years, and one of the things that I noticed now, and they may have done it back then, but they go to water. Yeah. They want to cross a river or a lake or something. They go to water.
This year, buck bailed in the lake. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
And that's typical of what a deer will do now to lose what's behind him. They just know what's behind him is not good. Yeah. And almost every mature deer you come to, I can guarantee you, he's been chased by coyotes.
Personally, I always feel like the bigger bucks that I track, they'll give me more of an opportunity. Yeah. They won't take off on that marathon run as quick as a younger buck. But eventually, like the one this past year, after I jumped him up once,
there 2 or 3 times,
and he waited for me again. That's when I got a shot at him. After that, and then I was pushing him pretty hard because we were coming to some roads. Yeah, and he stopped and waited a few times, and I should have stopped and backed off. Yeah, but we were coming through a bunch of roads. And I was like,
so how many roads did you cross on that? Drivable roads?
Drivable roads. Started them on a road. We crossed a brook.
Went across?
I jumped him before we crossed a brook. He crossed a brook and into some moose. Another classic example of him trying to lose me. Get into a bunch of moose tracks. I didn't waste any time. I just kind of skirted the moose tracks and caught them coming out, all because the moose had been all through there. Crossed a road that was a dead end road, but you could drive. Crossed that. I shot at him on the opposite side of that road in some jack firs. Then he went down across another road and then was headed up across another road up on that knoll, went right straight down towards the lake, crossed a road that went along the lake, and then went into the lake.
Four drivable roads.
Yeah, that was after. So before I jumped him, he stayed right away from any roads. I guess, kind of summarizes how we feel that.
Oh, it's been talked about a lot, Paul.
Great deer trackers. Yeah. Oh yeah, the characteristics that make great deer trackers great. So I think we've done this almost an hour now. You're antsy to go to camp.
I am.
He's headed up to camp. Mom's up there getting it all warm. Probably cooking them supper.
Getting supper ready for me.
So
life is tough.
Yeah, sounds it.
Yeah,
sounds it.
What's tomorrow? Monday?
Who knows? Saturday every day for you.
Yeah.
You're retired. So, hope it was, hope there was some insightful information there, at the very least you enjoyed it. So if you made it this far, thanks for watching, and until next time, get outside.
It's good for the soul.
See ya.